good evening, and welcome to this edition, the November 9th edition of the Bermuda Referee Corner, right here on islandstats.com. I'm joined by Zuri and Rotisha at this current time. We're waiting on another youth referee to make his way. Well, first of all, good evening.
Evening.
You two have taken a liking to the fact that you can give back by officiating the game. Obviously, you love the game of football. Zuri, when did you decide to get involved in officiating?
Well, I was playing football and I knew Mr. Williams, so he said that I should try refereeing, and I just decided to try it.
Yeah. And Rotisha, what made you decide to get involved?
I had seen a commercial video about how I could join refereeing, and it was a funny video, and I was like, okay, well, this seems like a good opportunity to get involved in the football community.
Right. We're joined by Juna as well. Good evening, Juna. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Okay. Rotisha, I'm going to come back to you to ask you, when you done your first game, were you nervous?
A little.
Yeah. How much training had you done prior to going out there to do your first one to make you kind of a little more comfortable?
I think 2 sessions before my first game that I refereed.
Okay. Zuri, how many games have you done thus far this season?
This season, I've done 4 games.
4 games. And they've been comfortable games for you?
Yes.
Okay. And let me ask you, Rotisha, let me ask you this question. During the pandemic and the shutdown, shelter in place and all, what were some of the things you were doing to ensure that when football did start again, you were going to be ready?
Well, just sharpening up on like the new laws and stuff that would be coming into place, and just keeping up with the knowledge, basically.
Yeah. Jonah, I'm going to ask you the same question.
Well, same as Rotisha, I was keeping up, like trying to make sure that like when I get back on the pitch and refereeing, that I knew that like what the new rules were, and so that I wasn't like behind on anything. Basically.
Were you guys a bit intimidated? And I'll ask Zuri this question. Were you guys a bit intimidated when the laws changed? But a lot of them don't always apply to you guys because they don't always filter down into the youth games. But when you start hearing law change, Zuri, what's the first thing comes to your mind, and are you nervous about it?
Well, when the law changes, like you have to remember it so that you can use it when you're refereeing. So that's kind of like a little tough thing because you have to like try and remember the new one instead of the old one.
Yeah. And how do you memorize the law? Because obviously it's a lot of reading, it's a lot of watching, it's a lot of talking. How do you memorize it?
Well, I try to like read over it and like talk to like other people to see like what they do and stuff.
Rotisha, do you spend time talking with others, especially other referees, about your experiences, well, good or bad?
Yes, actually, just Saturday, I had another referee that was reffing the game on the next field, and during our time before the game, we spent talking about what happened bad and what happened good in the game and what we could do to change it to make sure the game runs more efficiently.
Are you open to those type of discussions all the time?
Yeah, I don't see no reason why not to talk to nobody, because as you talk to them, you're learning more and more about the game yourself. So I feel like it's a good opportunity to talk.
Yeah. Jonah, since the last time we talked, what are some of the things you've improved on yourself personally to make it a little easier when officiating?
Well, I've talked to my friends, like I've backed up on my mistakes and their mistakes so that I know I'm like becoming a better referee as the years and games go on. And so I'm making sure I don't make the same mistake in the games. But I think that basically sums up what you're trying to ask me.
Yeah. How is that transition from referee to player? Are you still battling with it from time to time?
Yes. Because I know when I see another referee, I'm trying to not to, when I'm on the pitch playing football, I'm not trying to get mad at the referee, but at the same time, if I see a call that I think I would have made in the game, I try and keep my temper
Your
down.
opinion to yourself?
Yes.
All right, all right. Zuri, how was that transition for you when you're actually in a game and obviously at times there's going to be times where the referee comes out.
I think like sometimes I have to remember that like if I was refereeing, I wouldn't want like the players shouting at me and stuff. So I have to like try to remember that like they're the referee, so you have to respect the calls.
Yeah. When you look at it, Rotisha, um, how are you in that regard? Because some people like to be in charge with the whistle, but also like to be in charge when they're the player too.
Right. I just well, when I'm ever in that position when I'm on the pitch, I have to just remember that I need to stay in control. I can't get mad at somebody else for the same thing that they'll be getting mad at me about. You know.
Mm. When you prepare for a game, are you, and especially in Bermuda because Bermuda is so small, and you would end up with probably the same team maybe 4 or 5 times in a season. Do you, if you had a bad experience with, say, a coach or a player, do you try to address that before the next game with a conversation?
No, not personally. I just try to like move past it. I'm not that type of person to think about something that has previously happened and then try and keep that same energy in the next game because every game's different. Just because they acted one way in the last game don't mean the game be the same way this time.
Okay, all right. Um, Jonah, when you hear someone like that, like your teacher say something like that, do you reflect on yourself at times?
Yes, I do reflect on myself sometimes. I make sure that if someone is like a coach like screaming at me for making a call that I thought I like made right, next game I might go be open with them but be positive at the same time, and because people can change as she said, but yeah, I just make sure I'm open, positive, and not saying anything that like offend them, but make sure that doesn't happen in the game.
Mm-hmm. Zuri, how do you manage coaches? Because obviously you three are really young, and the coaches are considerably older. But how do you manage the relationship between yourself as the official and the coaches?
I think that like when I'm refereeing, if they're like saying negative things or stuff, I just try to not let it get to me because like you shouldn't let someone like get you down and like make you want to stop. So you should just keep on trying and like before the game, you should just be positive to them, speak to them, tell them a little bit about you, and then yeah.
What do you? I'm going to ask you, Ratisha. You put a lot of emphasis on when you're in training, trying to make sure that if the coach is trying to say something or you're having a scrimmage, that you kind of enlighten your teammates on whether or not it's an offended or an offense in your training sessions of what someone's doing.
Yeah, basically, if a player was to ask me if they was if it's an offense or if it's not, I try and tell them if it was or if it wasn't, or how it could have become an offense if they was to do something different than what they did, or why the offense has occurred and what not to do next time to prevent that from happening.
Right. Jen, I'm going to ask you a strange question, but I think you can handle it. If you were going to play a game and there was no official there, now you're geared to play, and you were the only one there to officiate, would you decide? What would you decide to do?
Well, I mean, I think the better option would be to officiate. And
It might be a better option, but what would you do?
I would probably officiate the game.
Save the playing for another day?
Yes.
You're probably one of very few who would try to do that because you want to play as many times as you can. Zuri, am I right? What would you do?
I will play the game.
See, I told Jonah, he's probably the only one thinking like that. And Rotisha, what would you do?
Personally, I'd ask someone else to officiate just so I can play the game.
Tell you, Jonah. I'm sorry I messed you up, Jonah, because I let you go first. And
So good.
but when you, how much different do you prepare, Jonah, when it's time to officiate a game as opposed to playing a game? It's two different preparations, obviously, but how do you differentiate the mental part of preparing for whether you're going to play or whether you're going to officiate?
Well, I make sure that I'm prepared, like in case a coach or like to be open with people, like as opposed to where if I'm playing a game, I'm more like trying to train, get my like warm up and stuff, make sure like I'm physically ready for that. But when I'm refereeing, I'm making sure that like I'm not too harsh, I'm not too soft, I'm making the right calls, I'm prepared to referee that game.
Yeah. Rotisha, when you look at officiating before you actually done it, were you harsh on officials, or were you just one of those? As I see your demeanor now, you're very laid back.
Well, during the game, it's like you get your adrenaline going. So when I play and an official's harsh on me, I tend to retaliate and try and be harsh back because my blood's pumping and I'm going. And well, but it's sometimes I have to remember that I need to take it easy before they send me off the pitch.
Ah, so actually taking out the whistle has helped you understand some things, hasn't it?
Definitely.
So you become a totally different Rotisha when you're playing as opposed to when you're officiating.
100%.
Zuri, what's your demeanor when it comes to playing?
When I'm playing, I usually respect the referee. Like sometimes it can be like a little frustrating because like you might think it's the wrong call or something. But usually I respect the referees with calls.
Mm. And do you become someone different when it's time to play the game? Are you like come out of a shell and be like someone like Rotisha? Because I think I've seen her react once or twice. So.
No, not really.
No. Okay. All right. What about you, Jonah? Are you someone? I've actually seen you play. Do you kind of transform into someone else when you're playing to kind of be allowed to express yourself?
I would say yes, because I feel like this is my time to critique on others, as I would say, and myself. Just to seeing other people referee my games is like practice to make sure that I'm not like them if they're not making the right calls that I think are right calls as a player. But I think I am a different player when I'm playing football. Yeah.
What is out of the new laws? What's the one you struggle with the most right now?
Probably the handballs. Just making sure that because some handballs, in my opinion, are not handballs, but the new law says that they are, so have to abide by them.
Yeah. What about you, Rotisha? What do you struggle with?
Nothing really. Still sharpening up on like offsides, making sure that I can tell when an offside has happened before I make the call, and then everyone's coming to me saying that it's not an offside. Just to make sure that I'm in the right positions when the ball is being played towards that direction, to make sure I'm in the right place at the right time, to make sure I make the right call.
Right. And Zuri, do you struggle with any?
Probably the handball, like Jonah, because it's different. So you gotta remember when it is and when it's not a handball.
Yeah. When you guys go to training, and I'll start with you, Zuri. When you guys go to training, do you ask for the trainer to kind of elaborate just a little more, so when you leave there, you're kind of almost 100% sure that when you have to make a decision, it's the correct one?
Yes, like sometimes if I don't understand it, like I'll ask for them to like explain it more, but most times they do a good job like explaining it thoroughly.
Okay. What about you, Rotisha?
Yeah, as far as it go, I'm always the type of person to ask questions to make sure to make sure I know all the information. If I have a game and then it's like, is that right? So the next time I ask questions to make sure I'm correct, and then I know for next time.
Okay. And Jonah?
As what teacher said, I'm probably the same type of person. Like I'm making sure that I always like as we're told in referee training, you have to like the time that you have your whistle in your hand when you put it to your mouth, like 3 seconds, to know like what you're gonna say, like and like what your answer is. So like with offsides, I used to be like pretty horrible at it, but I kept on asking the coach to like clarify, is this a offside? Is this offside? So now I'm pretty good at offsides and determining if it's offside or not.
Hmm. If you, Jonah, had to put together a training session for youth referees such as yourself, what will be one of the things that you would really emphasize on to ensure that people, when they finish with your training session, they are comfortable enough to go out and do a game? What would be one of those things?
I'll probably just make sure that they know that like when you're refereeing, it's your calls. No one can influence you to change your like decision on if that's a offside, is that handball. That is your game to referee. If no one else can come in and say that's not a handball, that's not an offside. So I'll just make sure that they know that whatever they say goes.
And you, Rotisha?
Um, Basically making sure that they know when to make calls and when they say what they say is basically what goes, as Jonah said.
Yeah. Zuri?
Also like Johnny said, like making sure that that's their decision and they shouldn't let anybody tell them different. And also like they should know in case someone was to go up and ask them, they should like be able to explain it so they can like prove themselves and so they look presentable and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm sitting here talking to you three, and I'm highly impressed with how you've handled yourselves tonight, with your answers and the fact that you're very knowledgeable about the game itself, both player and official. And I want to encourage you guys to stay at it, and remember that you represent your families and yourselves very, very well. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
Yes, you too.
You too.
Thank you.